a woman that is placed in a position, even in this day, if we look at a woman in this day who's put in a lead role, she is under the microscope. I mean, we could barely breathe without, oh, well, you breathe in correctly. Or if we make, maybe it's a sidestep. Maybe we did something a little out of the box and we are critiqued.
Yeah.
We do not have, to me, the same freedoms as a male, even though, you can
position.
yes, we can say how women's rights have paved the way for so many things, but there are still things and like quiet or unwritten rules that women have to live by
Yeah.
that men never see.
Is the woman, mother, female, under attack?
I'm doing like a little study in Renaissance women in literature, and just some of the forums I'm on and the conversations that we're having. It's pretty interesting. Just if we're including like the manosphere and the thought process that they have, I think it's pretty interesting to see that even though we've made so many great strides throughout history, there's so many similarities that I see in the text and the writings. And I'll be honest, some of it's like plays in Old English, and I'm like, let me look at that word up because it's spelled differently than how we spell it now. But I say all that to say, like, if you look at the Virgin Queen, Queen Elizabeth, they said that she was just really brilliant in how she was able to like command the court and kind of gain the ear of the people. Like the people were in love with her, and she almost set things up. And I'm paraphrasing for all my historians out there. Okay, I know some people are going to fact check me, but I'm giving you the general idea. But for example, they said she was like all about, in a sense, pageantry. Like everything she did, she wanted to make sure like she kept the love of the people. And one of the questions that were kind of raised were, they were pretty much trying to say, did she really do a good job of championing for women, or was it just about self? And if we're kind of circling back to your initial question about like powerful women or impactful women, I raised the point that I believe she was impactful. And I do believe, in a lot of the people that were in this conversation disagreed, and that's their business. I'm never against people's opinion. I like hearing different thought processes. But for me, I do think a woman that is placed in a position, even in this day, if we look at a woman in this day who's put in a lead role, she is under the microscope. I mean, we could barely breathe without, oh, well, you breathe in correctly. Or if we make, maybe it's a sidestep. Maybe we did something a little out of the box and we are critiqued.
Yeah.
We do not have, to me, the same freedoms as a male, even though, you can
position.
Yes, we can say how women's rights have paved the way for so many things, but there are still things and like quiet or unwritten rules that women have to live by that men never see until like they are in that space or somebody in their circle talks about that.
Yeah.
So back to Queen Elizabeth, they said like she literally had to. There's several speeches that she made that are like iconic and that are like stamped in time due to the fact that she had such a beautiful way with connecting the dots with kind of, and I hate to use this word, but in a sense, like gaining the male, the gentleman in the court, the male's attention. She had to make sure that these men that, in a sense, were serving her, but because they were men and they had position and power, she knew they still, in that day, they had that more of a presence than she did. So she had to make sure she won them and then kept the love of the people. And, being a woman that was not married, and they were expecting her to be married. They were pushing for her to be married. And they were even trying to get her to sign paperwork to make sure she, carried that out and had an heir. We understand how important that is in that time. But she still, her being a queen, still had to connect with the rules and laws that maybe a male would have never been pushed to do. Somehow she stood her ground. And of course, she gained a spot in history where we still look at her art and we respect, we know her name, hundreds of years later. So I said all that to say, I feel like women have always been under attack in some way or another. And I'd love to say, just reading through all these pieces, this literature, I'm like, man, we've gained so much ground that I'm like, wait, but we still have to observe this, and this. And I'm going through this checklist that I'm seeing in this, like, just the male gaze and just how that still has so much power and impact on women. And, I've talked to men, just coworkers, and they'll say, you're always working. I feel like you never take a break. You never have an opportunity I always see you just moving. Why don't you come take a break with us? I'm like, I don't really have time.
Yeah.
Let her know we're all going to take a break. And then one time I had a chance where I could be very transparent. I said, can I be very honest with you? Even though it's not said, I don't know if you know, women have to work 5 to 10 times harder than a man to gain a position and then to keep a position. He's like, what? I said, you always ask me while I'm working. I said, because they're always adding more things to our plate. Maybe it's because they think we can handle it. Maybe it's because they value our work. But moreover, I was like, I've literally seen guys sit in the office and look like they're shooting the breeze. They look so, and I feel like if I stop for a second, guys, we need to get back to work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I don't stop. Because if I even take a break or I breathe incorrectly, they're watching everything that we do as women. And I hate to say that it's still the case, but just kind of comparing and contrasting things that I've seen throughout history or reading throughout history and seeing stuff that I'm still dealing with today. Even if it's just how men interact with women in the workplace, or how I have to dress a certain way to make sure that I demand and command respect. So I'm not looked at as an object, or I'm not just in the male gaze. It's because I want you to respect me as an equal. There is so much more effort that I have to put into it, even the way I style my hair, the way I dress. And then being a woman of color, there's a whole nother layer to that.
Yes.
So if we want to talk about things being under attack, I mean, I feel like, if I could do this, leave this to the manosphere, gentlemen, one thing I want to encourage you all to do is be a little bit more protective of women of color. I feel like we're always under scrutiny. Our group in general, I'm sorry if I'm going off topic, but if you understood sometimes the amount of pressure that we're under, it would be so nice to have our counterparts, or people that we assume would be our counterparts, to do a little bit more advocating. I like the word used. Advocate for us, speak up for us, make sure that we feel safe in these circles and even in your conversations. And I don't mind different conversations, hearing your thought process, but I do feel like we need to circle back after you make your point. Make sure you're encouraging your brothers to protect these women. Because I'll be honest, I've been in so many circles and so many settings, and usually being the one female or the one Black woman in the room. And it's just, we already have so much that is on our shoulders. It would be nice to know that somebody would be there to help lift that burden sometimes, and then advocate for us. Because if you look at media, if you look in history, if you look at just some of the way the world is setting up how we are portrayed, it's never in a positive light unless it's someone of color that is telling that story. So it would be nice if you help tell our story a little differently, because I think we deserve it.
I agree.
I completely
really
agree
do.
with that.
I think we deserve it.
Yeah. It's like, why not highlight the Michelle Obamas? She's not the only one. There are other women like
So
that in
many.
the world, but they're not the ones that are put on the forefront.
Because that's not the image they want you to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so that's why I need people to do a little bit more homework, or open up your eyes a little bit and just make sure that you're seeing the truth and not what's being put in front of you. And I think our generation is very intelligent. You have all these resources and platforms. Get the truth, because there are amazing women out there that are producing so many brilliant things, and they deserve to get that attention, rather than I feel like a lot of conversations like, she's wearing a wig, eyelashes, and BBL. Like, there's so many. Let's talk about the brilliant things that
you have to consider the source too.
And I'm not just saying this
Right.
Black women. I'm talking about all women of color. There's so many women that are doing amazing things out there. I think they should be honored and protected.
Yeah.
Because no one else is doing it for us.
I mean,
I know it's probably off topic. I'm sorry.
I wasn't trying to go there, but
I went on a rabbit trail there.
That's why I said you have to
My
consider the
apologies.
source, the messenger.
Yes.
I went on a rabbit
Sometimes.
trail. My apologies.
That's all right.
I mean, it is queen talk, right? We get to do what we want.